She had the voice of an angel and the kind of talent that only comes once in a generation. Jazmine Sullivan wasn't just another singer, she was a storm. From the moment she sang her first note, people could feel something powerful, something deep in her voice that made them stop and listen. You won't believe how this little girl from Philadelphia became one of the most powerful voices in R&B, and how destiny took an unexpected turn that would nearly destroy everything she built. But before that heartbreak came the rise, and oh, it was beautiful. Jazmine Marie Sullivan was born on April 9th, 1987, in Philadelphia. Music was in her blood. Her mother, Pam Sullivan, had been a backup singer for Philadelphia International Records, the same label that helped create the sound of soul music. So it wasn't surprising that Jazmine grew up surrounded by music and history. Her father worked as the curator at a historic site called the Strawberry Mansion, and the family actually lived inside that landmark. Imagine being a child growing up inside a piece of history. That was Jazmine's world. Every room told a story, and every hallway echoed with her voice as she sang from the moment she could talk. She started singing in church, her voice carrying through the small room with a strength no one expected from a child. People knew she was special. Let me tell you, this is how her journey began. Not in a big studio or on TV, but in a church choir full of faith and hope. She didn't just sing songs, she lived them. Even at a young age, Jazmine sang with emotion that could move people to tears. But here is the shocking part. While other children dreamed about playing outside, Jazmine dreamed about stages, lights, and music that would reach millions. At only 11 years old, she got her first real chance to show the world what she could do. She performed on Showtime at the Apollo, a stage known for making or breaking young talent. The crowd that night went silent when she began to sing. No one expected that kind of power from such a young girl. Her voice filled the room, and even legendary musician Stevie Wonder noticed her performance. He later invited her to perform at his Christmas showcase in Los Angeles. This is where it gets interesting. Most kids her age would have been nervous, but Jazmine handled that stage like she had been born for it. That night, she didn't just sing, she proved that destiny had chosen her. By the age of 13, she was performing alongside Stevie Wonder himself, learning what real artistry meant. You won't believe the confidence she carried at that age. She wasn't just talented, she was fearless. But the craziest part is how quickly the music industry noticed her. By 15, Jazmine was signed to Jive Records, the same label that had worked with some of the biggest names in the world. Everyone said she was the next big thing. She recorded an entire album, poured her heart into every word, every melody. But then, just as things were about to take off, everything stopped. The label suddenly shelved her project and dropped her. Just like that, gone. It was a crushing blow. Most teenagers would have given up, but Jazmine didn't. Instead, she turned that pain into fire. She knew she was meant for something greater. What makes this story different is how she handled rejection. She didn't let it define her. Destiny took another unexpected turn when she met Missy Elliott, the legendary rapper and producer. Missy heard Jazmine sing once and instantly knew she was something special. She took her under her wing, guided her through the rough side of the industry, and believed in her when no one else did. Missy even called Timbaland the moment she heard Jazmine's voice, completely amazed by her talent. And just when it seemed like fate was done testing her, the universe sent another sign. Jazmine's mother had always believed in her success, so much so that she added a Z to her name, thinking her child would love jazz music. It sounded simple, but it was almost prophetic. That Z became a symbol of who Jazmine was: different, bold, and unforgettable. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Jazmine didn't just make music, she lived it. Every song she wrote was based on something real, something personal. Then, in 2008, everything changed. Jazmine released Need You Bad, a song featuring Missy Elliott, and it exploded. The world finally heard what Missy had seen in her all along. The song went straight to number one on the Billboard R&B chart. Her debut album, Fearless, came soon after and turned her into an overnight sensation. People couldn't stop listening. Her song Bust Your Windows became an anthem for women everywhere. She was nominated for Grammys, praised by legends, and adored by fans. But here's the shocking part. While everyone thought Jazmine was living her dream, behind the fame, something darker was beginning to grow. The lights were bright, the applause was loud, but the shadows in her life were getting darker with every passing day. What the world didn't know was that Jazmine's heart was trapped in a relationship that was slowly breaking her apart. Everything seemed perfect from the outside, like success, fame, love, but behind those smiles was a storm waiting to destroy her. Everything looked perfect from the outside. Jazmine had the fame, the voice, and the success that millions of people only dreamed of. But what no one saw was the pain that hid behind her smile. The same woman who sang about love and strength was quietly living through her own private nightmare. You won't believe how quickly her life started to fall apart piece by piece, all because of one man who claimed to love her. At first, everything seemed beautiful. He made her feel special, made her believe she had found her forever. Jazmine was young, in love, and finally at the top of her career. But here's the shocking part. The same person who said he loved her soon became the reason she nearly lost herself completely. The relationship turned dark faster than anyone could imagine. It started small, controlling what she wore, who she talked to, how long she stayed in the studio. Then came the words that cut deeper than any wound, the endless criticism, the manipulation, the fear. This is where it gets interesting, because no one, not even her closest friends, knew the truth. On stage, Jazmine looked unstoppable. But behind closed doors, she was falling apart. He began to isolate her, keeping her away from the people who cared about her. The more her star rose, the more he tried to control her. And then came the moment that changed everything. One argument turned violent. He slapped her so hard that she temporarily lost hearing in one ear. She tried to hide it, she tried to keep going, but the damage was already done, not just to her body, but to her spirit. In an interview years later, she quietly admitted, "He hit me so hard, I couldn't hear." Those words carried years of pain she had buried deep inside, but she didn't tell anyone then. She smiled, she performed, she attended award shows, pretending everything was fine. What makes this story different is how much she endured before finally breaking. Fame can be a beautiful lie, and Jazmine was living inside one. She kept showing up to the studio, her voice still powerful, her songs still touching hearts. But behind that microphone was a woman barely holding herself together. She didn't recognize herself anymore. The same girl who had once sung about fearless love was now afraid to even look in the mirror. The craziest part is that even during her worst moments, she kept working. She hid bruises under makeup and tears behind laughter. Every lyric she wrote sounded like a love song, but it was really a cry for help. Her fans adored her, but no one knew she was fighting for her sanity. And then, one day, it became too much. She looked in the mirror and couldn't recognize the woman staring back. "Who are you?" she whispered to herself. That question haunted her, and she realized she had become someone she didn't even know. In 2011, at just 24 years old, Jazmine made a decision that shocked everyone. Out of nowhere, she announced she was leaving the music industry. She said, "It's just not fun anymore." But that was a lie, a necessary one. The truth was too painful to share, so she hid it behind a simple excuse. Her fans were heartbroken, the media was confused, and record labels were in disbelief. How could someone at the top of their career just walk away? But Jazmine wasn't quitting music. She was trying to save her life. She walked away from everything she had worked for just to escape the man who had destroyed her spirit. Destiny took an unexpected turn once again. The girl who had once sung about strength and confidence now found herself broken, lost, and scared. The lights went out, the music stopped, and Jazmine disappeared from the public eye completely. For months, she stayed away from everyone. She battled depression, loneliness, and the heavy silence of starting over. But here's where it gets even more heartbreaking. She found comfort in the most unexpected place, a Pier 1 import store. She would walk around for hours, quietly crying among the home decor and scented candles. She said later that the workers never bothered her, they just let her be. Maybe they saw the sadness in her eyes. That store became her escape, her only place of peace. What makes this story even more powerful is how she found strength in her lowest moment. She didn't have a stage or fans cheering her name anymore, but she still had herself, and deep inside, a small part of her still believed in healing. She didn't know it yet, but this was the beginning of something new, something stronger. Her silence wasn't her ending, it was the start of her recovery. The silence that followed Jazmine's disappearance wasn't empty, it was healing. After walking away from everything she once loved, she began the slow process of rebuilding herself from the ground up. You won't believe how the woman who once sang before thousands started finding peace in the smallest, quietest corners of her life. It wasn't easy. Every day felt like a battle between the pain of her past and the hope for a better tomorrow. But this is how she slowly started turning her pain into power. She spent long nights thinking about who she used to be before the fame, before the heartbreak. Music had once been her escape, but now it was a reminder of everything she had lost. Still, something inside her refused to die. Destiny took an unexpected turn again when she realized that her voice, the same one that had once brought her pain, could now bring her healing. She started writing again. Not for awards, not for fame, but for herself. Every lyric became a confession, every melody a piece of her soul, finding its way back to life. For 3 years, she stayed away from the spotlight, letting time and faith rebuild her. But here's the shocking part. Even when the world forgot about her, she never stopped believing that her story wasn't over yet. She began watching reality shows, simple things that distracted her mind and made her laugh again. Those moments, as small as they seemed, gave her the strength to start creating new music. What makes this story different is how she used something so ordinary to find her purpose again. While others saw entertainment, Jazmine saw reflection. In 2014, she finally returned to the studio and began working on her comeback project reality show. The name wasn't just clever, it was personal. It represented her own life, full of truth, struggle, and transformation. When the album was released, fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. It wasn't the same Jazmine who had sung about heartbreak years ago. This time, her music was raw, honest, and fearless. Songs like Forever Don't Last and Let It Burn carried the weight of everything she had been through. Her pain had matured into wisdom, and her voice carried it beautifully. But here's where it gets interesting. Jazmine didn't just return to music, she returned with a message. Through every lyric, she told the story of survival, of a woman who had lost herself in love, but found herself through strength. The album hit #1 on the Billboard R&B charts, and critics called it her most emotional work yet. The craziest part? She did it all without chasing fame. She simply told her truth, and the world couldn't help but listen. Even after her comeback, life continued to test her. Her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that moment nearly broke her again. But this time, Jazmine was stronger. She stood by her mother's side through every round of chemo, every hard day. And when her mother finally beat cancer, Jazmine said it felt like her own soul had healed too. It reminded her that love didn't always have to hurt. It could heal, protect, and restore. As the years went by, Jazmine became more grounded, more aware of who she was. She had survived an abusive relationship, depression, and heartbreak, and now she was learning how to live again. Destiny wasn't done with her yet. In 2017, she met Dave Watson, a musician and producer who saw her not as a star, but as a woman who deserved peace. From the beginning, their bond was different. There was no drama, no pain, just understanding and respect. But here is the shocking part. After all the pain she had endured, Jazmine finally felt safe. She once said that she and Dave couldn't stay away from each other after their first date. He helped her see that love could be gentle, that it didn't need to hurt to be real. He became her calm after the storm. Together, they started creating music, pouring their shared emotions into songs that felt more alive than ever. In those moments, Jazmine rediscovered herself completely. She wasn't just singing again, she was living again. Her heart, once broken beyond repair, began to open up to new possibilities. What makes this story so powerful is how she didn't let her trauma define her. She turned it into something beautiful. Through all the darkness, she had found the light again, and this time, she wasn't going to let it fade. As Jazmine's life began to settle into a rhythm of peace and purpose, the world started noticing her transformation. You won't believe how different she seemed, softer, wiser, and full of quiet confidence. She wasn't chasing fame anymore. Instead, fame was coming back to her, drawn by the authenticity she now carried. This is how destiny rewarded her patience. After years of silence, she began performing again. And her voice, that soulful, emotional sound, carried a new kind of strength. Fans said they could feel her healing in every note. But here is where it gets interesting. Behind that glowing smile, Jazmine was still learning to trust the world again. She spoke openly about her mental health struggles, telling her audience that healing wasn't a straight path. There were still days when the pain tried to return, but she had learned how to face it without breaking. That honesty made her even more loved. People connected not just to her songs, but to her truth. What makes the story different is that Jazmine didn't pretend to be perfect. She showed that you can fall apart, disappear, and still come back stronger than before. In 2020, during the pandemic, Jazmine found herself reflecting on her past more than ever. Being locked away from the world reminded her of those dark years when she had been emotionally trapped. But instead of letting fear return, she began writing again. This time, her music wasn't just about love and heartbreak. It was about self-worth. And when her new album, Host Tales, dropped, it took the world by storm. The craziest part, it wasn't just an album, it was a movement. Each song told the story of a woman's experience, raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically real. The album became a massive success, earning her Grammy Awards and critical praise. But Jazmine didn't celebrate it like most artists would. She said in an interview that the biggest award for her was peace. Peace with her past, her heart, and her purpose. Destiny took an unexpected turn once again when she realized her pain had become her platform. The same struggles that nearly destroyed her had now given her the power to inspire others. But here's the shocking part. Even after all the fame, Jazmine stayed humble. She kept her circle small, her heart open, and her spirit grounded. She continued writing songs that reflected her growth, her faith, and her love for life. And through it all, she remained the same girl from Philadelphia who had once just wanted to sing her truth. Now, when people look at Jazmine Sullivan, they don't just see a singer. They see a survivor, a storyteller, and a symbol of strength. She turned her heartbreak into healing, her silence into sound, and her pain into poetry. Her journey reminds us that even when life breaks you, it's only preparing you to rebuild stronger than before. And maybe that's what Destiny was trying to tell her all along, that sometimes the most painful endings lead to the most beautiful beginnings.